Hey everybody, this is Anthony from VR Game Rankings and welcome to another episode of our daily vlog series. This is episode 18 for Wednesday, October 25th. Now, when it comes to news, there isn't a hell of a lot of news, I gotta tell you. We didn't have much news on Monday, we didn't have much news yesterday, and today there just isn't much news either. I've looked at Upload VR, I looked at Road to VR, I looked at the various subreddits. I've looked at some of the other websites as well, and there just isn't much going on in the VR gaming industry this particular week. Now, last week we had so much going on. We had all kinds of incredible big releases that were coming out every single day practically, and there was just an overflow of great things to talk about and things to discuss. This week, not so much. But you know what? I'm going to still try to do the best job I can. I really only have two very minor news stories this week. Today, I only have two very minor news stories, and then I do have a handful of VR experiences that I was able to try yesterday that I can talk about for a little bit, and we'll just see how long all of that takes, and if I run out of time, maybe we can, maybe I'll actually bounce over to Reddit live and just kind of look at some threads on Reddit and see what I might be interested in. I don't know. I'm going to have to kind of vamp if I run out of time here, but we'll just have to see what happens. Okay, so the very first story that I have is Acer. Acer, as you well know, they are making a mixed reality headset for the Microsoft platform. We know there's an Acer mixed reality headset that you can buy. But they have also been working with Star VR. Now, originally they put an investment into Star VR a while back. Well, they have now increased their investment and increased their position in this joint venture between them and Star VR. If you don't remember Star VR, Starbreeze, of course, has this like super wide headset that is being used at some IMAX centers, and they're making some different experiences for it. I believe there was a Walking Dead experience that they were making for it, and some other stuff like that where you're like in a wheelchair with a shotgun or something like that. So Acer has increased their investment. You know, they've added $5 million, and with this $5 million investment, it has now increased their percentage of this joint venture, where they now have like a 66.7% of this joint venture. Now, does this mean that Acer owns basically this Star VR headset and they own everything with it? No, it does not mean that. But if you read some of the titles for some of these news stories on these various websites, that's what you're going to actually think is the case. But I looked into it a little bit closer, and so here's what I understand. Now, Starbreeze, even though Acer does have this 66.7% stake in this joint venture, Starbreeze still retains the rights to Infinite Eye, which is basically the name of their super wide headset technology. Basically, Star VR, which is the headset, EPON, I don't know what the hell EPON is, and their Star VR SDK. So Acer retains the rights and patents and stuff to all of that type of stuff there. So, not Acer, Starbreeze retains the rights to all of that. Now, Acer, on the other hand, they would hold the patents to parts of the electrical engineering, parts of the mechanical design, the ergonomics, and some of that type of stuff. So this very much does appear to be a joint venture between these two companies, and it isn't necessarily a situation where Acer now has sole control over this whole Star VR thing. Now, the big question for us as VR consumers is, does any of this actually matter to us? Because we're more interested in VR headsets that we can buy and we can use in our own house. Now, from what I can tell, it does not appear that this is going to affect the consumer market in any appreciable way, at least not in the short term. Now, long term, who knows? But Acer has said, and Star VR has said, that this is still going to be a premium VR experience for location-based VR scenarios. For example, the Starbreeze headset, Star VR, is in IMAX, some of the IMAX centers that have VR setups. It is being used in some of those IMAX centers. And that's where they expect this technology to continue to be used. But Acer coming aboard does make it a little bit interesting, because obviously we do have the Pimax headset coming early in 2018, and the Pimax is that wide field of view. And so there is a thought process here where if Acer were to make a consumer version, and they certainly have the ability to do that, they have the manufacturing capacity to do that, they are bringing out products like this, they know how to do that, they've already got the Microsoft mixed reality product, so they could potentially take some of these designs and make it into a consumer model, a more mass market consumer model. That could be a possibility. And with Pimax pushing the market open and creating a possibility for wide field of view HMDs, Acer could say, hey, well, we now have an option. If this is where things are going to go, we're ready for that, and we can make the move, and we can make this into a consumer headset. Now, all of that is pure speculation, and it doesn't appear like anything like that is going to happen anytime in the near term, but it is within the realm of possibility, and Acer is well positioned in case that's the way things go. Of course, if they were to make a more consumer version headset, you would have to figure it would fall under one of the various platforms. Maybe it could be another Microsoft mixed reality headset, but this time with a really wide field of view. Or maybe they could join the Steam VR bandwagon, and they could create a Steam VR headset and bring this super wide field of view. So we'll have to see how all of that plays out. But right now, this is just, it's really not that big of a news story here, but it's just the biggest one that we have today. But one thing I will talk about for a quick second is just about the whole idea of wide field of view. And is this the way that we need to go? Do we need to head quicker to this wide field of view idea? My personal feeling with the wide field of view is that the size of the headsets, it's just the size of the headsets, the way the headsets look. I have a worry here because honestly, I want VR to be mainstream. I want VR to be extremely mainstream. I want everybody and their mom to have a VR headset. I want most gamers to be playing in VR. And I don't know if I could see this giant headset like this big contraption, either the Pimax or Star VR. It's a very large, obnoxious looking thing on your head. You look like a hammerhead shark with one of these giant things on your head. And I just don't know if something like that can really go mainstream. So I'm not sure that we should head in that direction right now, because I think VR does need to be mainstream. Now, should we really care what we look like on the outside? No, we're enjoying the headset from the inside, and we really shouldn't care how goofy or silly we look on the outside. But the problem is it's the mass market. I don't care how I look. And if the Pimax is incredible, and if games start really taking advantage of the field of view, I'm sure I'm going to grab one of these wide field of view headsets. But it's the general public at large that I'm a little bit more concerned about, because the general public at large, they really worry about how goofy or silly they might look with these different things on. And already with a lot of VR headsets, people are turned off by it because they think it just looks dumb. And we got to get around that. We got to find a way around that. And my thought process has always been, well, make these things smaller, make them more lightweight, make them less obtrusive, and you know, instead of big giant hulking things, we can get it down to where it's almost just a little bit bigger than those Terminator style sunglasses that old ladies wear. You know, that's kind of where I thought this could hopefully go in the near term. But if we start going to this wide field of view, well, then you take your screens and you put them to the side like that, and you're going to have this big hammerhead shark thing. So that is a concern. Now, the hope is eventually we will have bendable screens. We will have bendable curved screens, and then that will allow us to potentially get really huge field of views without having to have a big monstrosity on our head. So we'll have to see how that works itself out. But again, consumer market, this probably isn't really a concern. And Pimax, as well as they're doing, who knows how much inroads they're really going to make. So I don't know that Oculus or HTC or Valve or anybody is scrambling in their design docs to recreate a new headset that has a much wider field of view, because that's where everything's going. I don't know that it's necessarily going to go that way, but this Acer move is interesting because it does give them the possibility in the future to possibly take this this Star VR headset and bring it to the consumer market. So we'll have to see what happens as far as that goes. So that's really the only big news story that I had at all. But I do have one other little tidbit. I went over to the PSVR subreddit. I was seeing maybe there's a big news story on the PSVR subreddit. I checked over there. The only thing that I saw was there was a story about Next VR. And I actually saw two different threads on the PSVR subreddit about Next VR. One of them was talking about an NBA basketball game that was in VR, asking if people watched it. And the other one was just talking about Next VR. And I'm like, what? Next VR? Is it working for PlayStation VR? Because I had always known about this Next VR thing, but to the best of my knowledge, it was restricted to Gear VR. You had to have Gear VR to be able to try any of this stuff. So Next VR is this company where they go to sporting events and they put up cameras in certain spots. They have specialized cameras, and they try to do an actual production where they will film an entire Major League Baseball game, or they'll film an entire NBA game with various cameras, and they actually have a guy like switching from this camera, switching to that camera, and that's their whole thing, and this is on Gear VR. Now, unfortunately, I don't have a Gear VR. I've never owned a Gear VR, and I've never tried any of this out, so I do not know what it looks like, but I've always kind of been intrigued by checking out possibly an NBA game, because to me it seems like an NBA game in VR is a little bit more doable than a lot of these other sports, because a lot of these other sports, if you have this big wide field that you're trying to capture, that makes it more difficult. The NBA basketball court is a much shorter dimensions in terms of how wide it is, so I would think you might be able to actually get some pretty good VR from an NBA doing an NBA game. So now that I know that Next VR is on PlayStation VR, I never knew this. I never heard this announcement, had no idea. I don't know if this is something new or if it's been there for a while and I just didn't know about it. But next time I fire up my PlayStation VR, I'm definitely going to go to the app section and I'm going to go ahead and download the Next VR app. Now, the downside is if you want to watch a bunch of NBA games in VR, I believe you have to have a subscription to the NBA League Pass. And then if you have a subscription to the NBA League Pass, you probably put some type of code into Next VR, and then it will allow you to watch some of these NBA games that are in VR. But what they also do is every once in a while they will offer a free game, and so that people can just try it out even if you don't have NBA League Pass to see how this looks. And apparently last night, I'm a little bit late to the party, but this one PSVR subreddit, the PSVR subreddit, they were talking about a Celtic New York Knicks game that was being shot by Next VR in VR, and some people were talking about it. So, and it was a free game, and I guess that was yesterday. I missed out on that, but hopefully there will be some more free games in the future, and I definitely want to try it out. Sporting events in VR could be absolutely huge for widespread adoption of VR. Now, one of the biggest problems though, and I can go back to when I first got my HTC Vive. Before I got my HTC Vive, I didn't know how good or how bad all of this VR stuff was. And honestly, in my head, I kind of thought like the video side of it, I thought that was going to be way the hell better than what we actually got. And so when I first got my Vive, I was really excited to try all kinds of video things, 360 videos and all this stuff. And I don't know why I imagined it just being so much better than what it really turned out to be. But I downloaded a lot of these little video things, and you get different video footage. Like they have a clip where it shows LeBron James and Kyrie Irving, and they're like shooting free throws, and then LeBron does a dunk. It's in I think it's in the introduction to virtual reality video that Felix and Paul did. It's a 360 video. Looks okay, looks pretty good. But I've seen some other sporting event stuff where they show a soccer game or a baseball game, like just like a few minutes of it, and it just looks awful. The only thing that looks halfway decent is wherever they put the camera, and you know how the coaches and the players, like they have to stand over by the camera, and every once in a while they'll look at this weird camera contraption that is obviously there recording the event. The only thing that you can actually see when you're trying to watch this stuff is these coaches and players that are standing next to the camera. You look at them and you're like, wow, it feels like I'm right here next to this coach, like I'm standing here. But if you actually look onto the field or onto the court or whatever it is where the actual game is taking place, it's usually a pretty blurry mess because it's so far away. It's so pixelated. A lot of this stuff is streamed. We're not downloading like locked in video files. We're like streaming this stuff. The camera capture equipment, I don't know if it's up to snuff quite yet. I don't know if we're capturing this stuff right. I don't know where the failure is happening, but I'll tell you this, that I don't show anybody. Like if someone comes over to my house, they want to try VR, I really don't show them any of this video stuff because honestly, most of this video stuff is actually bad. And I think it leaves a bad impression. I know that if I had no idea about VR and somebody put a headset on me and I saw like some of the soccer games and like these little clips of the baseball games where it was trying to kind of show things, if I saw that, I'd be like, oh God, VR sucks. And I wouldn't even care about it. So I have kind of a worry of spoiling the well by showing off bad 360 videos and these sporting events, but I still want to try it. I still want to check it out. So, I'll definitely try this next VR app. The next time that there is an NBA game that they show on it for free, I'll definitely check that out because it's worth checking out, and then I'll report back after that. Okay, so really that's the only news that I have. I mean, there just isn't much today. So I'll go ahead and get into some game discussion now. Now, you're probably thinking that, oh, Anthony must have played a lot of Talos Principle, or he must have played a lot of Heart of the Emberstone. Guess what? I didn't play either game yesterday. Can you believe that? I just didn't get around to playing either game yesterday, but I did try out a number of games in VR. And what I was doing actually, you know how we had that story yesterday about it was a Job Simulator, about the overtime mode in Job Simulator, and then also Space Pirate Trainer has come out of early access. It's like a final version, and Drunken Bar Fight has some new content that was added to it. So I kind of thought, you know what, let me go back in and let me check out some of these experiences that I've already had, but I haven't checked them out in so long, and let me check out some of these updates and see what's going on with some of these games. So the first one I want to get into is Space Pirate Trainer. So this was last night, right before I went to bed. I was like, oh yeah, you know what? Space Pirate Trainer has had a big update. I haven't tried that in a long time. Let me try it out. So I probably haven't played Space Pirate Trainer since maybe, I don't know, like the summer or maybe even the spring of this year. Like it's been a long time since I've played Space Pirate Trainer. Haven't been in there in a long time. Haven't seen any of the updates that have happened recently. But I went in there last night and oh my God, that game has incredible polish. If you have not played Space Pirate Trainer in a long time, you got to get back in there. It is so dialed in. It is so clean. Everything is running so perfectly. Lots of stuff have been added. There's like new modes. There's boss monsters. There's new things that kind of, not boss monsters, but there's different drone things that come flying out. There's all kinds of new stuff, and it just feels so polished. It just feels so dialed in. Now, I will have to say, I've never played Space Pirate Trainer on my Oculus Rift, and when I went into it yesterday, it did give me the option of activating the Oculus Rift SDK mode. So, of course, I went ahead and did that because you might as well get that native Oculus Rift SDK if that's what you're going to play it on. And I don't know if the asynchronous space warp was helping out at all, but I remember Space Pirate Trainer back in the days playing it on my Vive, one of the downsides of Space Pirate Trainer is sometimes you would get like 18 different drones that are moving around and they're going like this, and every once in a while things would kind of get a little bit choppy and a little bit hectic for a little bit there, like frame dropping and stuff, and it is butter smooth. It's the smoothest I've ever seen it. I'm not sure if it would be smooth as well on my Vive if I wasn't using asynchronous space warp. I don't know if it's just if that's a part of it or if the game has just been polished to a degree where it just runs flawlessly. But I had an incredible time. I was using my grenades. Oh man, every time I play Space Pirate Trainer, I love using those grenades. The grenades are so awesome because you shoot out the grenades like boom, and the grenade flies out, and then you're seeing the grenade float through the air, and if you hit your trigger again, that's right when you explode the grenade. And it's just so fun to, you see these drones that are like hundreds of yards off into the distance, and it's like pop, and your grenade flows out there, and then you try to time the explosion of the grenade perfectly, and sometimes you can blow up like 3 of these drones at the same time. You get bonuses and stuff like that. I was having a blast, man. I haven't played Space Pirate Trainer in so long, and normally, like I was saying yesterday, I'm all about the cult of the new, because I kind of have to be. I have to play new games. I have to do reviews and all that stuff, and so I'm always thinking about new games. So a lot of times I don't go back and revisit these old classic games that I had that I was really into back in the day. But Space Pirate Trainer, man, I'm going to have to make some time to get back into this because this update is fantastic. Space Pirate Trainer, if you don't own Space Pirate Trainer, it is a must buy. It's $15 and it is one of the absolute classic games. And this is an example of early access done right. Like I've said it many of times, I don't really believe in the early access philosophy so much because it's been my experience where you have 10 early access games and maybe like 4 of the 10 really improve dramatically over the course of their development, where the other 6 nothing really happens, and it's more the developer is kind of like hiding behind this little early access shield to protect them from criticism and being like, oh, well, you're going to criticize my game, but it's early access. How dare you criticize my game? That's kind of been my take with early access, but Space Pirate Trainer is the opposite, man. They have really reworked this game. They have polished it to the 12th degree. It just flows so smooth. It's so silky. Everything is so crisp and clean. Oh my goodness, I gotta play some more Space Pirate Trainer. I was really blown away by that. Had no freaking idea that it has improved that much and has been dialed in that much. iLlusions is the developer of Space Pirate Trainer, and man, I give you guys much props because you really dialed that game in, and I'm curious what you guys are working on next because man, did you guys really dial that game in. And that, but I'm gonna try to keep going here. I'm sorry because I gotta get this blog done. My apologies for the video if it is jacked up. Okay, it looks like my video has caught up. Yeah, I don't know what's going on with my video. I don't know why it would be slowing down because I'm not running any other programs or anything necessarily. So anyways, apologies for the video. The last time I thought my video was absolute garbage, it only messed up for a couple of seconds, but this time I think it really did mess up for a little bit longer. So apologies for that. So another game that I got into was Drunken Bar Fight. So I saw on I think it was a Road to VR article, or maybe it was an Upload VR article, where they were talking about how Drunken Bar Fight got updated and some additional bars were added and some new scenarios and stuff like that. And I was like, you know what? I haven't been in Drunken Bar Fight in so long. I reviewed the game and I gave it kind of like a mediocre kind of review because the way I felt, Drunken Bar Fight, you know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of Gorn. And it really reminds me of Gorn, but see, it's not as good as Gorn because the thing that Gorn has that is so incredible is the collision detection. The collision detection in Gorn is out of this world. It's one of the best I've seen really for any VR game, because if you have an object and you're hitting another object in VR, a lot of VR games don't do that well at all, but Gorn does it incredibly well. And Drunken Bar Fight, unfortunately, is still a little bit janky. I was in there, and so Drunken Bar Fight, it's weird because I don't know exactly what I'm supposed to be doing in the game. I know you drink some alcohol, right? You drink some beers, you drink some wine or whatever it is. And as you keep drinking, your eyes kind of, you get these effects like you're drunk. Okay. And then so when you're drunk, you're supposed to have more power. So it kind of tells you maybe drink a few drinks if you get your ass beat and you're not able to beat up any of these other patrons at the bar. But what happens is you start drinking a couple of drinks and then you just take the bottle, and it's just a natural instinct to want to take the bottle and just smack it in these guys' domes, because that's what you do. And that is fun. It is fun to screw around in drunken bar fight. But I wanted to check out these new scenarios. So I was able to check out this one scenario where you're kind of like on the side of a skyscraper and it's nighttime and it's kind of like a wedding, like the bride is there, the groom is there, and a bunch of people are dressed up, but it's kind of like on the balcony of a skyscraper, nighttime, and the DJ's playing music and stuff. And you could get into a fight with the bride and she's wearing her wedding dress, and you can get into a fight with the groom. And it's really funny, like all of that stuff, but I still feel like the controls and it's really the collision detection. The collision detection, like Gorn, is so good. And after playing Gorn, going back to Drunken Bar Fight, the collision, it's almost like, it's like polygons are kind of going through polygons. You don't really, when you punch somebody, you don't really feel like you're getting a good punch. Thrill of the fight, it's another thing I can compare it to is Thrill of the Fight. And Thrill of the Fight, when you punch the guys, you feel like you're punching the guys. There's pretty good collision detection here. Drunken Bar Fight, I think one of the biggest problems is the collision detection, but there is a lot of interesting stuff that is going on in Drunken Bar Fight. It's still pretty cool to check out, and I wanted to see the new update, but I still think that there's some more polish that needs to come to that game. So that was Drunken Bar Fight. And then so the last one I wanted to get into is Job Simulator. So I haven't played Job Simulator in so long, and we hear about this infinite overtime mode, and I thought that sounds pretty cool, infinite overtime. And basically, hold on one sec, let me get a sip. So basically this infinite overtime mode, the thing about Job Simulator that I like so much, it's the comedy. That's what I like about it. And so when you're in the regular mode of Job Simulator, you're dealing with JobBot. And so when I found out about the infinite overtime mode, there's TempBot. And he's supposed to be a little bit more unorganized, a little bit lazier, kind of like not the greatest worker, not the greatest supervisor. And I thought, you know what, that's probably going to be hilarious. I got to check this out. So I went into Job Simulator. Now you have to finish the entire regular version of Job Simulator before this opens up. And then there's a switch. You get into the main area, and there's this little switch that you switch and you activate the infinite overtime. And so I went ahead and did that. And then you can choose any job that you want. Now I choose the convenience store clerk, which is one of my favorites. It's, it's like you're in an AM PM. Now I don't know if AM PM is just a West Coast thing, but here on the West Coast, we have a gas station called AM PM. I don't know if it's nationwide. It probably isn't. But whenever I think of convenience store clerk, I just think of AM PM. I'm working at an AM PM. And so you sell lottery tickets and you sell slushies and hot dogs and all the kinds of things that you would sell at a convenience store. And so what the infinite overtime mode does is you now have TempBot, and he comes in and he's talking about working the night shift, how things are a little bit different on the night shift. And I thought, yeah, this is going to be kind of cool. But really what it does, the only thing that it really does is you get new customers, is really the way it is. So in the convenience store mode, the doors will open for the convenience store, little ding ding. When somebody comes into the convenience store, that familiar sound that goes off every time a new customer walks in, the customer comes in and he goes up to the counter and asks for a hot dog or asks for a slushie or whatever it is. And these are all new interactions. But the problem is, after you go through about 7 or 8, maybe 9 different customers, then it starts recycling again. And it's just over and over and over again. You can go forever. It's an infinite mode. it was fun. I played this for maybe 35 minutes or so, and I tried all the new customers, and there were some funny things that the customer said, and you do some funny stuff, and it was enjoyable. I had a lot of fun in it. Now, doing the infinite mode, eventually I got to the point where it's like, oh, okay, I did this customer already, I'm doing it again. I did this customer already, I'm doing it again. So it's kind of repeating after a while. But that's what the infinite mode is all about, right? But I haven't done the car repair one or the short order cook or the office one. And I can tell you this was cool enough that I want to go back in and I want to try the auto repair. I want to try, especially the short order cook. I think that one would be fun. The office job one, I'm not sure how interesting that would be unless they just give you completely different office jobs. Oh yeah, and there's supposed to be a fidget spinner. Damn it. Arrowin X told me about this yesterday. He said, make sure to try the fidget spinner, but I didn't go into the office mode. I just went into the convenience store clerk one. So I'm definitely going to have to go back into that. But basically, I guess this episode is the updates episode. And I can tell you, a lot of us had Job Simulator way back in the days. A lot of us got it with our HTC Vive, right? It was part of purchasing the HTC Vive. We got Job Simulator, right? I think. And a lot of us got Space Pirate Trainer a long time ago. And I can tell you, both of these games, if you haven't checked them out in forever, fire them up again. They're pretty damn good. There's some enjoyable stuff going on here. And Space Pirate Trainer, my goodness, these fools dialed it in so well. It is so finely tuned. Drunken Bar Fight still needs some work, but you might want to check it out. Just, it's fun to fight a bride in her wedding dress. It is fun to do that. You know, it's just kind of hilarious to be in a situation like that. I just wish the collision detection was as good as Gorn, but oh well, we can't have everything we want now, can we? So anyway, we've hit the 30-minute mark, and I gotta say, I'm sorry for the video problems. Not sure what the situation is with that, because I'm not running any other programs right now. I don't know why the video would screw up. I'm just using my Logitech camera software, trying to get better video quality and the widescreen and everything. But every once in a while, as I'm doing the show, I can see an image of myself over there, and sometimes it's like, you know, it's like that, and it's all like freezing up, or I'm just stopped. You know what the worst is? If you've ever done YouTube videos, the worst is when it freezes and you're like, your eyes are closed, and it freezes for like 2 minutes, or you're in the dorkiest, stupidest like expression, and it freezes for like 2 minutes. Oh my God, it's absolutely awful. And in this episode, I know it freezed for like a minute there, and I don't know exactly how dorky the expression is, so I guess I'll check that out later. But anyway, guys, sorry for this particular episode. Wasn't the greatest. Didn't have a lot of news there. Didn't have like exciting new games to talk about, but hopefully some good information in there as well. And you know, this is the way it is. This is when you do a daily show, you do a live show. I have no script. This is just off the cuff. Sometimes it's going to be a little janky, just like some of these games are a little janky, right? So that's just kind of the way it is. We just have to live with it. But this has been episode 18 for VR Game Rankings daily vlog series for Wednesday, October 25th. And I'll see you guys tomorrow. Take it easy.